an ex-convict turned business owner, consultant, husband, and father. You grew up in Berkeley, California.
Here I am, my first apartment. I got my little car. I got all this stuff going on, and I can't make ends meet.
You got involved with selling drugs.
And he's like, man, tell you, I'll give you a few of these cokeheads, man. They'll pay your rent in a couple of days, man. I was like, damn, cocaine? Nah, but I did it. And they come out real quick with the cash, and I'd be like, oh my God, these dudes are fiends, right? And it scared me. And he set me up. Like, he was trying to set me up by getting me to bring a pound to them. They came in, guns out, laid everyone in the house down. I had the gun in my head. I'm laid out face down. I feel the gun start coming up like this. Bam! It was like a movie. Everything went black. I thought it was dead. I say this to people all the time. I don't care if you killed 20 people or you stole a quarter. We can never repay what we did, right? And even if it was a quarter, that might have been the quarter that got that person on the bus to meet their future husband or wife or get their dream job. Like, you never know the ripples of what we do, how it impacts other people. A lot of what I do today, and I love what you're doing with this platform, is just trying to pay forward whatever I can to try to make amends, you know?
30 to life. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to 30 to Life. I'm Muso Ron, and today's guest is Tito Guerrero, an ex-convict turned business owner, consultant, husband, and father. You grew up in Berkeley, California, camping, fishing, and playing sports. At the age of 8, your father put you to work at his automotive machine shop, teaching you responsibilities and the value of earning a dollar. In 6th grade, you were voted most likely to succeed, and after graduating high school, you got a job and started building that future for yourself. Unfortunately, life had different ideas and you suffered an injury that put you out of work. Rent was due, utilities were due, and out of desperation, you got involved with selling drugs. This led to a series of bad choices, which ultimately ended up getting you a 15 to life sentence in California prison. Your conviction was later overturned by the appellate courts, and after many years, you eventually paroled from prison. After your release, you got your bachelor's degree in business and founded Fourword Consulting, aiming at helping clients get from where they are today to where they want to be tomorrow. Fourword Consulting's principles is based on 4 words: no excuses, only solutions. You also started Granny's House, which is a transitional housing and sober living for convicts being released from prison. You have revisited San Quentin State Prison several times as a free man, conducting classes and giving speeches to inmates. You also started a podcast where you talk about your prison experience, as well as sharing motivational and inspirational thoughts. Tito, welcome to 30 to Life.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, man. I'm happy to have you on here. You know, we're old time friends, and you got a unique story that I think that a lot of people should hear. You're very successful since you've been released from prison. So that's why I invited you here on 30 to Life, because your story is a very successful story. And I think that people can really gain a lot from it. Before we start this, let me say this, man. I remember when I met you in Solano, right? And we were on level 3. It was my first time meeting you. And you had came to the yard, and all I seen was this guy walk up, and he had his boombox, cigar in his mouth, and he was playing rap music. And I remember just looking at the Tongan homie, Fita, and I said, who the hell is this white boy at our table? And then Fita said, nah, that's the homie Tito. He's Peruvian. I said, oh, okay. But me and you got to chopping it up, and we got to know each other better. And coincidentally, you and I had the same appellate lawyer. Mm-hmm. And I remember you telling me, man, you're going to get off your case, Ron, man. You got a great appellate lawyer. He got me off mine. And so tell us a little bit about that experience, that day you got your appeal. And then we'll get back into how you ended up in prison.
Yeah, man. So yeah, and ironically, one of my first memories of you was you actually asking me about who my attorney was. And I remember telling you, man, he doesn't work for money. So if you don't get him by luck of the draw, you don't get him. And then you got him. And I was like, oh, you going home, man. But yeah, so I'll never forget. I went through having one attorney, and then right when they got basically the brief put together, she called me up and said, well, I'm leaving. I'm going to hand you off to someone else. And in my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm never going home. I'm not even worried about this anyway, right? And so she's telling me on the phone, I'm like, yeah, well, hey, I appreciate your time and all, best of luck to whatever you're doing. And I hung up. I didn't care. And my mom told me that this new guy, she's like, man, he looks like something out of the movies. He's got this comb over hair and he's short and he looks real squirrely, but he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And I was like, yeah, whatever. In my mind, I'm not going home. I don't care. Like, do whatever you do, right? And I'll never forget, they were scheduled to go to the oral arguments, which I figured would get shot down and that would seal my little case off. And we went on lockdown. The white boys had that escape attempt thing and they locked down the whole prison. And I really forgot about it then. We're on lockdown and Johnny Boy, Filipino homie, he was Marcelian. And they come by and they're like, legal mail, Guerrero. And I'm like, yeah, 8-7. Well, yeah, I'm not thinking I got anything coming, anything going on. They hand that manila envelope through the door. And Johnny's like, what's that? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm like, man, it's a big old thing. So I rip it open. And I'll never forget, man, when I pulled that booklet out, there was a cover letter and in bold print in the middle. That was the first thing I read because it was bold. It said, your second-degree murder conviction has been overturned. And I was like, I slid it back in and I'm like, and Johnny's like, what's it saying? I'm like, hold on, man. Hold on. And for everyone else, Johnny was a younger kid. He was a lifer as well. So, I'm like, man, I pulled it back out and I'm like, oh shit, my sentence got overturned. He's like, what? And so we're yelling and screaming, we're on lockdown. We can't get out the damn cell. None. So we're just banging on the door like, oh shit. A few days later, I get a letter from my mom because that was on a Thursday. And she was like, yeah, we were coming up to visit, but you guys went on lockdown. So I was like, and then it was just waiting to go to court. And then they took me, but it was a surreal experience because I really put it in my head. Like the best way for me to deal with the situation was, this is home. I'm never going home. And I remember a lot of the homies on the yard would tell me, man, don't ever call this home. Don't ever. And I'm like, man, that's why y'all walk around here mean mugging and stressed out. This is home, man. I'm going to make the best. Like you said, I pull up smoking a cigar with some drink in my hand. Like I was home, man. And that threw a curveball in it all, right? I was like, I might actually go home now. Like, I don't know. And then the whole thing with going out to court and being in county jail for almost 8 months and back and forth to court every freaking day. That was the worst, man. And just knowing that like I could come back with the exact same thing or something better, and just, anyone who hears or watches anything on county jail and then sees prison, like we would rather be in prison than in county jail, hands down. So that just sucked going through that transition and then wondering, man, where am I going to end up? Where are they going to send me when I go back? And, did I lose all my stuff? And I'll never forget though, back and forth. I had 15 to life and they kept offering 14 years when I threatened that I was going to bail out. And when you get your case overturned, they have to give you bail. They could be $10 million, but they have to give it to you. Right. So they kept offering that 14 years. And I'll never forget, I called home and my dad was like, man, we'll refinance the house. I'm gonna get you a lawyer. Like they want 275,000, like all this crazy stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I don't want, like, you could pay all that money and I still go 15 to life, right? And my mom, she's like, why don't you want to take the deal? And I said, well, I've never been in trouble. I've done stupid stuff, but I've never been in trouble. So they're trying to give me the max on a gun, 10 years, and the max on involuntary manslaughter, 4 years. If I've never been in trouble, why don't I get the bottom? Like, give me 9 years, give me the mid, give me something, but I don't want 14 years. And I'll never forget, man, like this is etched in my brain. My mom said, well, I think you should take it. And I said, why? And she goes, at least we'll still be alive when you get out. I said, call the attorney. I will take it tomorrow. I never want to go to court again. Tomorrow. And she said, are you sure? I said, tomorrow, bye. And I hung up. And the next day I went in, and all I remember is standing there, that judge, big old American flag behind him. And they started reading through all the little things like, do you agree? Do you agree? Do you agree? I've never done LSD or any of that stuff, but I think that's how it felt, because that flag started mixing and I almost passed out, man. And my attorney's like, you all right? I'm like, I'm good. Are they almost done? Are they done? Yeah, I agree. Okay. I was like, holy shit. But then after that, it was, it was like, damn. And I ain't gonna lie, and I'm gonna tell everyone, and Ron, you know this more than anyone. After getting that life sentence off, oh man, I was making wine every day. I was like, it was party time, man. It was like, hey, I don't have to worry about messing up my board here. I just got to worry about screwing up my time. But yeah, man, it was surreal. It was surreal. And up until I actually got out that gate, like it wasn't real until then. Like, even though I kept seeing that I had a date, like I didn't believe it till I got out.
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna lie, this is probably the first time I ever told you to your face virtually. I'm still mad you got out before me. I don't know how that worked out, but how you have double my sentence and you got out before I did. Anyway, no, I'm actually, dude.
Yeah, I know exactly how you felt, man, because it was the same for me. I got my case overturned and I was still getting in trouble, doing things, just programming in the same way that I had been programming before. And I remember the homie Clumsy, he had told me after I came back from court, he said, nothing changed about you except your sentence. And he really messed me up with that, so kind of put me on a better path after that. But yeah, man, I know exactly how you felt. It wasn't real until I walked out of the gate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we did the appeal and you went to prison. So let's talk about that. Take us back. You were fresh out of high school, you got a job, and then life takes a turn, right? You get injured, you get put out of work, and bills are due, rent's due, workers' comp ain't cutting it. So you decide you got to make money fast. So tell us what happened with that.
Yeah, so I had a buddy I went to high school with. He started dibbing and dabbling in drugs, and I knew this. And at the time, I was super against drugs. Like, I didn't even want anyone smoking weed around me, like nothing at all, right? I didn't even really drink or any of that. So I kind of distanced myself from him. But here I am, my first apartment, I got my little car, I got all this stuff going on, and I can't make ends meet. And I'm like literally sitting there going, man, I got a roommate, like pretty soon, he might get kicked out because I can't pay my half of the rent, Call up my homie Beans, my partner Beans, right? I'm like, Beans, man, what's up? And he's like, what's up? And I'm like, hey, I need some help, bro. Like, I need something I can do without having to move around too much. And he's like, man, tell you, I'll give you a few of these coke heads, man. They'll pay your rent in a couple of days, man. I was like, damn, cocaine? Nah, but I did it. And mind you, I can't even talk about it too much, but it's little triangle papers full of coke. They were $20 a pop. Man, I was selling those $5 an hour like it was nothing. And it scared me because I'm watching these dudes come out, and a lot of them were, paisa dudes, Mexican dudes working the scullery and bus boys and stuff. And they come out real quick with the cash. And I'd be like, oh my God, these dudes are fiends, right? And it scared me. And I was like, man, one of these dudes is not going to have the money one night and stab me to get his stupid little triangle of coke. So I called my buddy. I'm like, Beans, man, I can't do it, bro. It was like a week and a half, if that. I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And he's like, I know it's crazy. I'm like, yeah. He was a Mexican dude, so he grew up with a lot of these dudes. And I was like, no. He's like, you want to try weed? And I'm like, Yeah, that's like a low level, drug. Yeah, I'll do weed. So I started out with brick weed, straight Mexican brick weed, and I started selling it, and I'd sell it more in bulk than anything else. And then I was like, man, I lived in a ghetto part of Berkeley, right? So I'm like, man, these dudes around here smoke weed all day. I was like, I need something better though, because they can get brick weed anywhere. So I kept bouncing around different connections. I ended up finding a dude that, back in the day, the bomb, the Indo and everything, right? And like big fluffy buds and everything. I was the man. I was a freaking man. Like I would sell out, and then I started buying quarter pounds and pounds, and I was balling out of control. And it just got to a point where I was like, damn, like I'm throwing these parties and stuff, and like I don't even have to go back to work. Like I had a guy living in my apartment rent free just so he could sell while I slept. Like I literally had Kleenex boxes with weed with 20 sacks in them, and he would take it out, and then I had a stack of money. This was a re-up stack, and after that I put it to the side. Everything else was the party money, right? And it was just like that. And then one of the dope deals, I ain't gonna put his name out there, but he's dead now, but I still won't put his name out there because a lot of people that I know him. But he set me up. Like he was trying to set me up by getting me to bring a pound to him, and then I knew he was gonna rob me, so I wouldn't do it. Then I actually, and this is gonna sound crazy, I was getting out the game. I was like, man, I'm back at work. Ironically, there was a black dude named Tito that lived across the street. So I started giving him all my stuff and sending people. I'd always be like, no, you came to the wrong Tito. You looking for black Tito across the street. So I would send him over there. But this guy sent these two dudes high off some heroin to rob me and everything. And they came in, guns out, laid everyone in the house down, got my wallet and stuff, and had me and my best friend at the time and roommate laid out on the floor, pistol whipping us, like, where's the weed? I'm like, man, it's across the street, man. You better go find the other Tito. I ain't got none here. And I did it. Kept going. And then, I mean, if I turned around, you could probably see it, but had the gun in my head. I'm laid out face down. I feel the gun start coming up like this. Bam. It was like a movie. Everything went black. I thought it was dead. And then like my hearing started coming back. And when I opened my eyes, I see the two guys like looking at each other like, what the fuck? And they go running out the door. And I reached back, there was blood on my head. And I'm like, okay, well, it ain't bad. It's like a scratch. But when I turn around, my best friend is in a puddle of blood and he's shaking. And I mean, like a movie, I'm like, he's dead. Like he got shot, like it went off my head into his head. Then he sits up, puts his finger through the hole, and he's like, man, that didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. I'm like, what the fuck? He's in shock, right? Yeah. And then he's all, oh man, help me pick up my teeth. Because his teeth, it took out two teeth, cut his tongue in half, and took out another tooth over here, right? And he's literally, we ran and got him a pot. He's putting his teeth in a pot. I'm like, dude, you can't put your teeth back together. Like,
wow.
And from that moment on, I went a little crazy. I had a little hot gun that someone brought back from Desert Storm. And I was literally driving around looking for these guys. And I actually saw one of them one time at festival at the lake in Oakland. But he took off, got in the car, he recognized me, he took off. And man, I must have drove around the lake 50 times trying to find him. I thank God I never ran into these guys because one, I know what I would have did, but two, I wouldn't have felt as bad of being in prison for that than what I was in prison for. But that's what got me started with all the bad stuff. But even when I stopped selling dope, weed, whatever, I got used to the lifestyle, hanging out with drug dealers and gangbangers. And because I was always good, like I never ratted on no one. I always did shit that people needed. I had access to a lot of stuff. So I stayed in that community, but it was eventually that community sticking around the negative energy that got me where I was at,
Right. So ultimately you start making some bad decisions after that, even more, right? And ended up with a life sentence eventually in California prison. Can you tell us about you know, how that came about, your conviction and everything like that?
Yeah. So, like I said, I still hung around everyone. So I was working, I was running my dad's machine shop. On paper and from an outside view, I was just a working guy, you know, drank way too much. I would work and then go and hang out, right? Work, go and hang out. My house turned into the party spot. Like everyone knew you could go to Tito's house and just chill and play music and drink and smoke. So that was what it was. And the night everything happened, my buddy, like my little brother, Yaheen, he was like, "Hey man, can I kick it at the house?" And I'm like, once again, I was at a point in my life, and this is the weirdest thing. It's always when I'm trying to make a change that, you know, the trials and tribulation happen. I was at a point where I was kicking my roommate out because he started selling weed and meth out of my house. And I was like, dude, you got to go. And he was moving out that night. And I had stopped letting people hang out and kick it at my house. But my boy comes by. He's like my little brother. I'm like, yeah, man, go ahead. I give him the keys to the house and he goes over. I leave work. I get over there. We're drinking, hanging out. Like I said, my roommate, he was selling drugs out of the house. He had a shootout like 2 weeks ago in the house with the drug deal gone bad. Hmm. So my paranoia is like through the roof. I got legally owned guns, right? Like probably 10 of them. I'm thinking like these dudes could come back, right? So everyone's like hanging out partying. So I go get one of my guns and I'm literally sitting on the porch with the gun in my waist, drinking my little beer or whatever and kind of watching out. And when all this happens, it was basically like I'm out there and my boy Yaheen comes out and he's like, "What's up, man? Why are you out here?" And I'm like, "Dude, y'all got this door open. You keep going in and out, you know." And he's all, "You still tripping because of what happened?" I'm like, "Hell yeah." He's like, "Why don't we just go inside and shut the door then?" I'm like, "Yeah, cool." Right. So I get up. I didn't have a belt on, right? You know, cool pants sagging idiot back in the day, right? So I got to hold the gun as I'm walking in, and he's walking in. There's a speaker right in front of him with the music blaring. He's walking in. I'm walking in behind him. I'm taking the gun out. I'm about to go walk in the other room to put the gun up. And he's like, says something to me. I don't hear him. So I'm holding the gun in one hand. I'm like, "What?" He says it again. I'm like, "What?" And when I go like that, boom, gun goes off right in the back of the head. Hmm. When movies do that stuff where they go to slow motion and stuff, if you've never been in a traumatic incident, you won't get it. But if you have, you get it. Because that gun went off. The gun came out my hand because I wasn't expecting it to. But when he started to fall, everything was in slow motion. Like a movie, I remember him falling. I could see the hole right here behind his ear. And in slow motion, he fell right in front of me. And as soon as he hit the ground, everything went back to normal. I ran over, grabbed him, put my thumb on the hole, and was just keep breathing, keep breathing. Like the pictures they took of me, blood all over my pants because I was holding them in my lap. Luckily, a cop was coming around the corner, so the cops were there right away. I was like, "Man, I did it. There's a gun," like whatever. To this day, I'll say this, and I'm not trying to take away from what I did, right? I never kept my guns chambered because I was always scared to go off. People that were in the house had been handling the gun. I think somebody chambered it and then put it back. I still shouldn't have been handling it. I was drinking. But it is weird that right after it happened, I'm holding him later on in court. I had always wondered how the gun ended up moving so far away and there was like a bullet somewhere else. Well, apparently someone else testified later saying, "Oh, I was scared, so I picked up the gun. I took a round out of the chamber and everything." And I'm like, "Yeah, were you trying to cover your tracks because you were the one that chambered it in the first place?" So needless to say, I 100% take responsibility. But once again, bad choices doing stupid stuff. Right. Like, I look back at it, something was going to happen to someone eventually. I wish it had happened to me, you know, but yeah, what are you going to do, man? I say this to people all the time. I don't care if you kill 20 people or you stole a quarter, we can never repay what we did, right? And even if it was a quarter, that might have been the quarter that got that person on the bus to meet their future husband or wife or get their dream job. Like, you never know the ripples of what we do, how it impacts other people. And I mean, I took a life. I'm never going to pay that back. I'm never going to forgive myself for it. You know, a lot of what I do today, and I love what you're doing with this platform, is trying to pay forward whatever I can to try to make amends, you know?
Exactly. What a unfortunate situation, you know, being that, you know, this was your friend and it was an accidental thing. But I'm glad you're here to share this. And this is what people need to understand. You know, if you're going to play in the game, you know, you're going to be living that life and just being around drugs, guns, alcohol, you know, people who are getting in trouble or whatever. Even if you have the best intentions, you just don't know, you know, what can happen at any given moment. And your whole life can change, you know, and yeah,
Yep.
that's just an unfortunate situation, man. So, you know, this happens then, and you know, you end up going to court and everything, and you get sentenced by the judge, and you get on the bus to San Quentin. So, what was that experience like? Your first time going through something like that, entering into those gates of San Quentin?
Man, I tell this people all the time, man. San Quentin is, movies don't do it justice, man. That is an ominous place, especially when you pull up the first time. That's old school. I mean, literally the oldest prison in California, right? I mean,
Yes.
and they don't try too hard to make it any newer. So, yeah, pulling up. I mean, being in county jail fighting for 2 years, and hearing all the stories and getting all the prep work, you think you're ready, man. Nah. You get there and right away they yelling at you and strip naked, and you know, and it's all bars and stripped down paint and boiler room looking stuff, and you know, you're looking at guys that you can just look at and go, man, that fool been here 20 some years at least, right? And then people sizing you up right away, whether it's the people on the bus or it's the people in R&R at receiving and release, right? Like, yeah, it was crazy going through that process and then getting a CDC number, right? And what's crazy is my number was P36187. And I swear to God, I told the cop, I was like, is that a joke? He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, because I did the math, and I came in on a 187. I'm going to be 36 when I go to board. Is that a joke? And he was like, you did the fucking math? And I'm like, yeah. All right. And I walked off, you know, and ironically, I got paroled at 36 instead, you know? So, but yeah, man, just going through that process and having them go through your little bit of property from county jail and then getting your little bedrolling crap and then walking through. Right, seeing the artwork, seeing the yard, going, you know, you got Badger, Carson, all, you know, West Block, and you're just walking through, and it's literally the shit you've seen on movies and stuff. Like, you're like, holy fuck, like, this is like that. They actually filmed that here, like, and I don't know, man. For me, it's like I could feel the pain. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, shit has happened here. Like, this ain't just historical because it's been around a while, but like, people have died here, both inmates and cops, you know, and like, so like, I was literally walking with my stupid bedroll going to Badger section because that's where they had all the lifers at the time. And I'm like, did someone die right here? Like, how many people got stabbed right here, right? And then you're walking in the stairs and shit, and you're like, damn, there's hella blind spots here. Like, it ain't like county jail where it's all the 180 setup where they can see everything. Like, there's blind spots. And I'm just like, and hell, I think it was like the second or third week I was there, someone got thrown off the third tier. And I'm like, oh shit, like, it got real. Like, you know,